Hey guys, it's me, Mr. T50, and welcome back to Higurashi. So Keiichi's mad. He's very upset. And as we discussed previously in the last episode, people think Keiichi's really naive. Just because he thinks he can fix it all real easy without putting too much thought into it. And I'm not exactly sure what Coach's plan is. Coach's plan seems to be the usual let's wait and see, which of course Keiichi doesn't like, but I feel like he's got more to it than that, and Keiichi just can't see it. So let's continue. I went home and washed the day's sweat off in the shower. Normally I could reset everything by taking a shower and forgetting all the bad things. But that didn't happen today. I got out of the shower to find fresh underwear placed neatly in the laundry basket. Normally I didn't stop to think about it, but today I felt happy at my mother's consideration. At the same time, however, it made me realize how much Satoko must be suffering. At the very moment I was appreciating this gentle kindness, Satoko might be being bruised by her uncle's cruel words. Or physically bruised as well. I went up to the second floor and shut myself in my bedroom. Then, facing my desk, I folded my arms. My topic of thought, of course, was Satoko. We'd thought that if we could just get a public agency to intervene in the right way, the problem would be solved. But with what Coach said, I didn't think it would be so easy. Satoko was obstinate, and she would stubbornly deny the abuse and try to endure it. And that was an act of atonement towards Satoshi, who had protected her before and then run away. As long as she thought that way, the situation wouldn't be so simple. But earlier, before Coach, I made a clear declaration. If I thought Satoko was in danger, then I would do what I had to. In the end, that meant I was just going to wait and see too. Nevertheless, I thought I'd drawn a clearer line than Coach or my friends had. If the time came, I would report it. Over the phone. Given Satoko's personality, she might criticize me if she found out. But I believed it was ultimately the best decision. Wait, Keiichi Maibara. Would that really be all it took for the problem to end? Say that I reported it to a public agency, like the Child Consultation Center. What if they stuck to their wait-and-see attitude like last year again? Last year they decided to do just that, and the situation improved temporarily, but then the aunt, thinking herself a laughingstock, increased her tormenting in secret. In the end, things became more underhanded than ever before. This year it was her uncle. I had just seen him for the first time today, but the man seemed much more direct, much more violent than the word underhanded could imply. He wasn't like their aunt. No, not that subtle. He was more direct. He might also assault her with punches and kicks. That could easily be discerned from the bruises and such I saw on Satoko's body. You're too naive, Keiichi Maibara. However heroic it may seem to report what was happening, if it doesn't save her, then it doesn't mean anything. Reporting things to a public agency was only one option, and leaving everything to them would be dangerous. We would need something more to guarantee Satoko's safety. I scratched madly at my head, thinking, then tilted it back, wanting at least a little bit of calm. The memories of angry arguing with my friends today came to mind. I was embarrassed that I hadn't realized it until Rena said something. She was right. My house is big. Compared to all the houses with the straw-thatched roofs in Hinamizawa, It was really big. We did actually have empty rooms. I've never thought that we were affluent, but also never that we were poor. I just didn't admit it because people would think I was arrogant. But maybe my family really is wealthy. We had a few rooms we could lend to Satoko. The guest rooms are only in use when people related to my dad's job come and stay every once in a while. Plus, if we cleaned up a few of the rooms my dad uses for storage, they could work for her as well. As for food expenses, that might have been a more serious problem than a kid like me can imagine. Lunch every day would be manageable. All of our friends would just have to bring a little bit more for lunch than they usually did. With everyone pecking at everyone else's food anyway, it would be manageable. For breakfast and dinner, though, that would have to be up to Mom. I would need to convince her to lend Satoko more than just a room. Of course, I don't even think convincing her of that would be easy. About how much did it cost for one person to eat? How many tens of thousands of yen per month? I mean, I'm just saying, she's a small girl. I doubt she eats that much. They couldn't complain about it if I shouldered that, could they? I only had 10 or 20,000 yen in savings, but it was something. I actually had even more thanks to New Year's gifts and such. But my parents had taken all of that and put it into a fixed time deposit. If I could get access to that, that should add up to a lot of money. And if I got that far, Mion and Rena would need to share some of the burden. Of course, that didn't seem like that would work. Rena got mad at me, didn't she? About how I shouldn't just shove responsibility onto others. I'd have to ask for help. Even so, I'd basically be saving her myself. I would follow through on it. Oh, but it wouldn't be only food expenses. There were a lot of other things that you couldn't do without, like baths and laundry. My mother was awfully methodical and strict about cutting out inefficiencies, and for once, that was troublesome. She might even make reference to the money it would cost for the detergent Satoko would use for her own clothes. I don't know. Either Keiichi's blowing this way out of proportion, or his mother's like super uptight strict. I'm just saying. Once you're already in a house, it doesn't cost that much more to add another person. Or at least a young adult. I'm not talking about like a baby. I couldn't think only about food expenses. I needed more money. Hey, wait, Keiichi Maibara. Since when was this all about money? Even if you could afford it, you would need your parents' permission first before going online. They'd be looking after a young girl for a really long time. I'm just wondering, are his parents really this unreasonable? I feel like if you said, hey, one of my friends is really in trouble, you know, can we have them live at our house? I feel like that wouldn't be such a huge problem. Maybe not necessarily forever, but like for a year or something. That I feel like that wouldn't be a massive problem, especially if you offered to, you know, do some work to help to pay for some of the expenses or something. I don't know. What would I say to persuade them? Just calm down a little bit, Keiichi Maibara, and you realize right away that you can't. Even if you ask them seriously, they would tell you to call the police. Even if you manage to gain their empathy, why should the Maibara family have to shoulder all the burden by itself? That's what would happen. That was it. It was very sad and frustrating, but no matter how much I wanted to help, my resolution alone couldn't save anything.
そんなにも子供って無力なのかよ。
I felt frustrated. I believe my feelings were stronger than anyone else's. I even thought they were stronger than coaches. And yet, at that point, there were 2 knocks at my door, and Mom poked her head inside.
起きてたの？さっきからご飯ってずっと呼んでるわよ。
あ、うん。今行く。
As someone financially dependent on his parents, I shouldn't say this, but I just sat around doing nothing, and food suddenly appeared. It felt so natural to me that I shamelessly thought of it as the responsibility of the parents who gave birth to me. But when I realized that natural thing was actually a privilege, I came to realize just how hard it was to grant that privilege to others. Even the boring meal in front of me, no better than it ever was, which is super rude by the way, Keiichi, had more meaning than that tonight. There was food for 3 of us on the table right now. For Dad, for Mom, and for me. I couldn't imagine how hard it would be to add another place at the table. Keiichi, you have 4 chairs. She's a small girl, I doubt she eats that much. Think, Keiichi Maibara. If it was hard to make food for 4, then just think about how 4 people could eat food made for 3. Oh. My changed... Wait, what? I changed around the way I thought, and with that I began to think of an consider an unthinkably bold plan. That's right. I didn't need to get my parents' permission. I'll just go online without them. She should just live here in secret. Oh no, Keiichi, this is a bad idea. I got upset when I found out a while ago, but if I remembered right, if you climbed out the window, then shimmied down the first floor roof or the gutter, you could go in and out of the house directly from my room. Satoko's physical ability far surpassed my own, so it would be even easier for her. I hadn't even thought about it, but her living here secretly was actually a necessity. I'd only have to bring Satoko to my house, and the public agency said they would wait and see. In other words, if Satoko's uncle continued to be her guardian. If, in such a situation, word got out that she was here, her uncle would barge in and drag Satoko back with him. Her uncle was her rightful guardian, so my parents would hand her over without an argument, no doubt. So, I needed to keep it a secret that she was living here. If it needs to be a secret, then having my parents' help would mean a lot, but gotta deceive your allies first, like they always say. Do they say that? I feel like that's a bad idea. Okay, persuading my parents was an unrealistic proposition. So I'll search for a way to have her live here in secret. When I was around, she would just have to be really quiet in my room, on the 2nd floor. The issue was the daytime. If she was hiding from her uncle, then she shouldn't go to school. It might be lonely, but not going would be the better option. I could easily teach Satoko the stuff she learns in her grade. Actually, during school, I mostly help all the younger kids out rather than study my own stuff. During the day, I would need to go to school, so I wouldn't be at home. My parents respected my privacy now that I was this age, so they wouldn't go snooping around in my room while I was gone. Or at least, you assume they wouldn't because you're not there to check, right? I think. If she holed herself up in my room, it would be okay, right? If my parents did come, thanks to where the 2nd floor was, she could hear their approach from the sound of them coming up the stairs. And there would be a little bit of time before they got all the way up. I estimated a few seconds. That she would be able to hide herself in the closet. Now we can go raid Keiichi's closet now that he's gone. Wait, Keiichi. Something doesn't make sense. If she can't go to school, then what does she do for lunch? Calm down already. I could just leave her my own lunch, couldn't I? I should just go to school without lunch and get everyone else to split theirs with me. Okay, that's not suspicious. No more contradictions or oversights, right? Oh, breakfast and dinner. I could somehow get her to go without breakfast. This is the let's get Keiichi a cat plan, but hide it from our parents so they don't know. I can go with 2 meals a day when I sleep in on Sundays after all. Every night, I'd pretend as though I had a bigger appetite than ask for a bigger helping. And then I could just somehow give part of that to Satoko. Genius! As a test. I stood up from my seat, with my plate of fish in my hands.
どうしたのケイチ？
I want to eat this in my room, Mother.
ご飯は座って食べなさい。
You can't tell me what to do. I want that cat.
ちょっと気分が変えたくなってさ。自分の部屋で食べてもいいかな。
ボロボロ落として汚すぞ。食事は食卓で食べなさ
The
い。
table is the holy masterpiece of not making messes. Anywhere else, messes are guaranteed to occur.
ごめん。
Hey, wait. I only tried to take away 1 plate of fish, and they ganged up on me. No, they just said you were going to make a mess, which, in all likelihood, if they're saying that, that's probably from previous experience. In reality, it was impossible for me to smuggle food away without my parents knowing about it. But it must have been worth taking the time to think about. There must be some trick, some method to avoid them realizing. Even if I can't think of one today, I might think of one tomorrow. My appetite was rapidly fading, so I finished early and went back to my room. I went back there and tried to think about it from Satoko's point of view. For example, let's say my parents were coming up the stairs right now. I've got to hide. I opened the closet. Clatter, clatter. It didn't open quietly. Hey, wait. Didn't it always open real smooth and quiet? Why was it suddenly doing this now? What is this, a faulty house? Had it already gotten old or something? Or was I just not putting enough work into it? Could I just plaster it with wax? What? The sound itself may have been soft, but it left me uneasy as to whether my parents would detect it happening when they climbed the stairs. But this is an easy problem. I could do something about it. I just had to fix it up a little bit, so it didn't make noise anymore. For now, I'll close myself in the closet as though I'd successfully hid. I basically always left my futon out on the floor. I couldn't think of any real reason my parents would want to go into my closet. Even so, there might be some reason they would. I might need to construct some sort of camouflage, so that she wouldn't be noticed even if they did open it. But the more she worried about that, the less time she'd actually have to hide, meaning it would be more likely they'd hear a noise. And then, I suddenly had to go to the bathroom. The bathroom? Oh crap, cats have to pee too! The need to use the toilet. So obvious and yet such a fatal flaw. The only bathroom was on the first floor. It would be absolutely impossible for her to use it without my family realizing. I might need to set up a portable toilet. Like a chamber pot, I guess. Satoko would hate it, so she could go in my room. But the stench would be pretty terrible. Anyone sensitive would probably notice the smell without even coming into the room. The bath was okay, though. She could just take a bath when my parents were out. But I couldn't do anything about a toilet. When her stomach started to hurt, if my parents were lazing around downstairs, she'd be in trouble. It was then that I noticed that I'd been clawing at my head with both hands. I sat down in the dark closet with my knees against my chest. I buried my face in them and tore at my hair. The more I thought, the more contradictions popped up. the more I thought, the more things failed. And the more I worried, the more I was reminded of how little power I actually had. My back started to hurt from staying in a cramped place for so long. But if I was to shelter Satoko, I would need to force her to feel this pain. To live in such a dark, narrow, suffocating place, forever. But it would still be better than being abused by her uncle. Or so I wanted to think. It got hard to breathe, so I gave in and crawled out of the closet. And Keiichi's parents are like, "What are you doing in there?" "Why are you in my room, mother?" I looked at the clock, and to my surprise, it was 3:30 in the morning. It had felt like so little time, but it was so unbelievably long. When I realized that, I was slammed with a terrible urge to sleep, as if the time had only just caught up with me. I didn't have enough strength to fight it, and fell flat onto my futon. I can't just go to sleep like this. If I waste any time, that means I'm taking the same wait-and-see attitude that Mion and Coach and everyone else did. I needed to keep worrying about how to rescue Satoko for a minute, or even a second longer than everyone else. Isn't there a better way? Isn't there a better way? That one phrase I spoke to myself swirled around and around in a spiral, and steadily took over my entire mind. For my last moment of consciousness, I thought, there were a lot of blind spots in what I'd considered tonight. But I absolutely wasn't wrong for having those ideas. Tomorrow I would suggest this bold plan to the others. Mion might be able to help somehow, and Rena was really sharp, so she might have a good suggestion. And above all, we needed to rescue Satoko once again, with everyone helping out. I felt pathetic for letting myself fall asleep. I'm sorry, Satoko. The ceiling blurred into view. It was hot. There was a thin layer of moist sweat on me. The voices of the cicadas permeating my room were somehow grating to my head.
レ、今日、日曜日じゃないよな。
I remembered today was a weekday and quickly brought myself to consciousness. And then finally I leaped out of bed. The clock read a little before 10. I was totally late. When I wandered downstairs, my mom would get mad at me. There was nothing I could do, though. After reviewing the schedule for the school day for a moment, I suitably rearranged the stuff in my bag. I hurried and got dressed, then went down the stairs. There was no sign of my parents anywhere. Uh-oh. Maybe they went out somewhere together. So that's how it was. My mother had probably woken me up once this morning, but then I fell back asleep without remembering it. And my parents, thinking I'd gone to school, left. Something like that probably happened. I went to the front door, and as I expected, it was locked. Looked like I was right. How did your parents do the chain lock without, being in the house? It was further evidence of my speculation being correct. When I realized my parents weren't here, I suddenly felt less like I had to rush to get to school. There was one portion of breakfast left in the dining room. Probably mine. The milk they'd poured in it had gone warm since a while ago. When I realized how hard it would be to sneak food for Satoko. Yesterday I'd cried. Well, thinking back on it, food wasn't the only issue in that regard. I wasn't in a position where I could bargain for Satoko by myself anyway. It's such a heavy thing just to save a single person. I'd seen this on TV and comics all the time. Those feel-good words about how you'll save your friends for sure and such. Was that why I ran my mouth like that? Swearing to save her? Because I wanted to feel good about it? No, that absolutely wasn't true. Because the fact was I couldn't save her. Because I didn't want to think like an adult. Like I couldn't do anything but watch. Had Satoko gone to school today? I immediately realized that was a meaningless question. Whether or not she did, there wouldn't be a change in the environment she'd been placed in. If I couldn't save her, and no one else could either, then we could only pray for a miracle.
俺たちは無力か。
With a vague goal of getting to school in mind, I sluggishly put on my shoes and stumbled out the front door. I'd only overslept by 2 or 3 hours, but the sunlight and air felt completely different from how they usually were in the morning. Well, of course they did. Once 10 o'clock came around, you could barely call it morning anymore. I didn't feel like walking the same old route to school. I needed to ultimately end up there, but it was like I didn't want to choose the shortest route, the most proactive one to get to school. Put in a more positive light, maybe I wanted some time to walk by myself and think. I had to go to school, partly to make sure Satoko was safe, but I hadn't come up with any plans yet. Nothing since last night. So the path I took from my house was in the complete opposite direction. If I went this way, I'd pass Rinna's house, in the dam site. It would be quite a detour. I calculated how long of a detour it would end up being. Then, satisfied with the answer, I started to walk. Rinna had brought me to the dam site a few times. One section of it had turned into an unlawful, oversized garbage dump, and Rinna really liked going fishing for junk in there. Without that, she'd come off as a completely normal girl, too. I can think of a few other qualities she could do without, but whatever. The view quickly opened up wide, and I was hit by a strong wind. There was no shelter here at this big dam site. Maybe it was a good thing I came here, I thought. At the very least, it was more healthy to think about stuff in a place like this, instead of my cramped bedroom. I took a deep breath and filled my lungs with the rich cold air unique to Hinamizawa. Ring, ring. I turned around reflexively. It was a bicycle pedal, or bell, not pedal. Considering where I was standing, I don't think they were trying to get me out of the way. They rang the bell because they wanted something from me. Hi, Tomitake. You seem to be noticeably mute right now. You're from Hinamizawa, right? Yes. Why? I've seen this person around a few times. Right, I remembered. His name, I think, was Tomitake, a freelance photographer who lived in Tokyo. He would zealously visit Hinamizawa every season to take pictures. Or so Mion and the others told me, I think.
古出神社ってここからどう行けばいいか教えてもらえないかい？マップを宿に置いてきちゃったみたいでね。困ってたんだよ。
ここから神社ですか？
I knew where everything was in my head, but explaining how to get there would be difficult. I was a little irritated at having been bothered for this, but when I realized it meant my detour actually meant something, that feeling faded away quickly.
教えてもいいですけど、ちょっと口で説明するのは難しいですよ。一緒でよければ連れて行ってあげますけど。
え、それはかたじけないね。助かるよ。あ、でも、いいのかい、君の用事は。
Tomitake-san finally appeared to have realized how strange it was for a student like me to be here at this time of day. I smoothly told him not to worry about it. Good, that's the best plan. Then turned my back and started walking towards the Furude shrine. Tomitake-san hurried to turn his bike around and came after me.
ごめんごめん。気にしないでくれよ。男には組織を離れて一匹狼になりたい時もあるんだからね。
What a free-minded freelancer. It was easier for me too, that he was under that impression. I'm Tomitake, a freelance photographer. I specialize in wild birds and landscapes, and getting myself killed. It's still pretty unknown, though. It seemed absurd for him to introduce himself when I was just showing him to the shrine, but he gave me his name, so I needed to give mine back. I'm Maibara. I don't take pictures of anything, I just, I make a lot of noise. Pleased to meet you, I guess. Maibara-kun? Pleased to meet you. He seemed like a pretty silly man, but that felt kind of good considering I'd been suffocating with worry over Satoko all night. Along the way, Tomitake-san spoke at length to me about how precious nature in Hinamizawa was, and how it was a treasure trove of rare wild birds, despite my not having asked. I wasn't interested in what he had to say, but he seemed to be enjoying himself, so I left him to it.
この石段を上がれば神社の境内です。
ありがとう。助かったよ。ああ、ちょっと遅刻しちゃったかな。
As Tomitake-san mumbled to himself, he left his bicycle nearby and started to climb the stairs quickly. I didn't have a watch, but as far as my internal clock could guess, it was still a little late in the morning. School wasn't very far from here. Maybe I could kill a little more time until then. Let's just kill so much time that we don't ever go to school. How about that? With that in mind, I went up the steps in pursuit of Tomitake-san. When I reached the top of the long staircase, I arrived at the wide-open shrine grounds that were too grand-looking for this tiny village. Tomitake-san. Oh, there he is. It looked like he was supposed to be meeting someone here. Then he got lost and ended up being late. He was bowing to a lady who must have been the person he was meeting. That lady, I knew her.
あら、前原くんじゃない。こんにちは。今日は学校はお休みかしら？
Don't worry about it.
なんだ、圭一くんついてきたのかい？
別にそんなつもりはないですよ。ただちょっと時間つぶしがしたかっただけです。
あらあら、重役出勤とは優雅なものね。さすがは有名人。今から大物ぶりを発揮してること。
What was I, a celebrity? Well, she did say my name out of nowhere anyway. I was oddly concerned about what she meant by famous.
あら、私の名前はまだ思い出せない。
No, your name's woman.
高野美代さんだよ。村の診療所に勤めてる。圭一くんは健康そうだからあまり病院のお世話にはならないかな。
せっかくお知り合いになれたんだから、今度病気か何かできたらちょっぴりだけサービスしてあげようかしらね。
This lady named Tukano-san. I kind of didn't remember her. Maybe we'd passed each other on the street a few times, but I was pretty sure this was the first time we talked. Well, this is Hinamizawa. Even if I don't know a person's name, it's not unusual for them to know mine. I glanced at Takano-san and saw she had a bag and a camera.
ひょっとして二人とも写真仲間ですか？ あ、それで待ち合わせを。
仲間でなんてとんでもない。素人の私に二郎さんが優しくてほどきをしてくださるだけなのよ。ねえ。
そんなことないよ。高野さんは飲み込みが早いからね。僕の指導なんかなくても実に自由に撮影をこなすよ。本当さ。
Awkward laughter. I couldn't tell which of them was ahead in the conversation. Well, they were certainly one couple you wouldn't get tired of watching.
いよいよあさってが綿流しね。
Oh, the day after tomorrow, really?
今年はいい写真が撮れるといいんだけど。
It's time for the death to start.
明日の設営シーンからレンズに収めるつもりだよ。そういう準備風景からもお祭りの活力を捉えたいんだ。
Oh, I just remembered. There was some village festival called, what was that, Watanagashi or something? The day after tomorrow on Sunday.
ひなみ沢の守り神、お社様に感謝するため、古い布団を積み重ねて供養する。
They clog up the
そ
local
んなお祭
river,
りでしたっけ？
back up the stream for miles.
ご名答。前原くん、引っ越してきたばかりにしては博識ね。そう。お社様に感謝するためのお祭り。
Tekanu-san smiled somehow meaningfully, but didn't tell me what part of a festival to think Oyashiro-sama needed to be laughed at.
やれやれ、高野さんは。でもどうだろうね、今年は。
2度あることは3度ある。そしてもう4度あったのよ。5度目がないと言える方が何の根拠もないと思うけれど。
I knew what they meant by their whispered exchange. On the day of the Watanagashi, a freak death always occurs. In case you didn't know, which people call Oyashiro-sama's curse. The disappearance occurs that people call being demoned away. These strange events have happened 4 years running. In Watanagashi, rapidly approaching the day after tomorrow, mark the 5th.
村の旧敵にたたりをなすお社様か。
Spooky!
今年もあるとして、果たしてその矛を受けるのは誰になるだろうね。あ、僕はここに来るたびにちゃんとお参りしてお賽銭を入れてる。僕じゃないことは確かだよ。
あらそう。近年のお社様は異邦人には特に厳しいって話よ。引っ越してきたばかりとはいえ、前原くんはちゃんとひなみ沢に住んでる村人だけど、二郎さんは毎年来るだけのただのよそ者。さーて、今年は見逃してもらえるかしら。
ひどいな。
Tomitake-san was the only one with a pained grin, but we were all smiling, me included. Oyashiro-sama, the one who used a curse to kill people involved with the dam construction project, one after the next. He killed the dam construction manager, killed Satoko's parents for supporting it, and the next year he even killed her aunt. If the demoning away was part of that curse, then you could add Satoshi to the list of victims. As I thought about it, I realized that in the serial freak death incidents, the overwhelming majority had the last name Hojo. Half of the deaths and disappearances had come from the Hojo family. The Hojo family lived here in Hinamizawa. Did that mean Oyashiro-sama punished and cursed them particularly harshly because despite that, they had been in favor of the dam?